earlier this month, County Executive Marc Elrich proposed a real property tax increase, which landed like with a thud and not much support from the county council or anyone named Mark with a C. Now, snatching defeat from the jaws of defeat, Mr. Elrich is now proposing to raise the county income tax rate to 3.3% and make it retroactive, get this, to January. So your 2025 taxes are going to go up. Mike, the proposal by the county executives, in addition to the massive tax increase passed by the General Assembly, how's the council going to react to this proposal?
Well, unfortunately, they probably will react favorably. So there are a couple issues at play. One, you've got to have a unanimous vote of the county council to ultimately get a property tax increase through. There's some wiggle room there, but rather than have that fight, the income tax doesn't require a unanimous vote. So that gives you a lot more latitude and a lot more flexibility. The other piece is that in addition to the state raising our income tax at that level, because they passed certain funding requirements back to the jurisdictions, most notably teacher retirement, they gave the counties the ability to raise their own taxes to be able to absorb that increase that they passed on to us in addition to the increase at the state level. So it's, they gave us the tools to shoot ourselves in the foot. And unfortunately, that's what the county executive is proposing.
So are you saying we should blame Wes Moore for this?
I think what you're seeing at the state level and at the county level is an inability to understand kind of the economics that we have right now, right? If you look at the jurisdictions to our south, Virginia has a surplus, we have a deficit. If you look at, we don't know how to cut. If you look at Montgomery County, the county executive is in a box because the people who supported him have been folks who have been union oriented, and we have more workers than we had before. They're being paid more than they were being paid before. At the same time, he also knows that the economy is really being impacted by control of the federal government and having impact on businesses that he doesn't have control over, and he's stuck and doesn't know which way to turn.
So Mark, with a K, by the way, not Mark with a C.
The right way.
It's very interesting. I listened to Mr. Elrich's statement when he talked about the increase, and there's actually panic in his voice about the fact that we don't know what the federal government is going to do, the impact that the federal government cuts are going to have on Montgomery County and the state of Maryland. And there's real, there was real fear you could sense in his voice. But here's a novel idea. Howard County, their county executive, Calvin Ball, is cutting spending with no tax hikes. And, Lord forbid that we have to cut a few programs. So do you think the council is going to respond with cuts?
Well, of course, the elephant
or pass the tax.
I say, the elephant in the room is obviously the MCPS budget. That's roughly a little over half the county's budget. And we've gotten ourselves into this, even though the enrollment is essentially flat, down slightly over the last couple of years. We've gotten ourselves into the board asks for the high rates, and then anything less than that gets defined as a cut, and it's not a cut. It's just a reduction in the amount of increase. And the council has really got to be able to take that aspect of the budget head on and address it, which is the MCPS does not need as much money as it's asking for, and they've got to make the adjustments.
Well, it just seems to me that, we've heard a lot of talk and discussion from both the General Assembly, the governor, and now from Mr. Elrich about, the impact that federal government cuts are going to have, but nobody's doing anything about it. They just sort of are kind of whistling past the graveyard. Let's hope we can kick the can down this year, and next year will be better. Any other thoughts?
Well, no, I think you're right, and I think that we've got to be very cognizant that these changes are real. They're going to have a significant impact on our economy, and that if you're not looking to try and make structural changes, it's just a matter of when you're going to get bit in the butt, not if.
And so, is it going to impact the next elections, Mike? 2026 is an election year, isn't it, for most of these guys?
It is. I think it very likely may. We live here, we live in Maryland, in Montgomery County, and we tend to take these things in stride, but I think we're getting to a point where I don't think people can ignore it anymore, and I think the ballot box is where they're going to show it.
So will there be a tax revolt, Mark?
Well, there certainly will.
Montgomery County
know,
residents are going to revolt.
It's interesting because let me go back to Mike's description of the sort of incentives, if you will, or the rationale for an income tax increase. It's a perverse byproduct of the Ficker amendments that it's harder to increase the real estate tax than it is now as a result of the change that was made this year than it is the income tax. And that was always frankly one of the risks that we had with that.
Well, guys, that was a great discussion. I think it's going to have a major impact on 2026. And I think some of these council members and the race for county executive is going to be very interesting to watch and see what happens.